All right, and welcome back to Let's Talk Dog podcast. And this week we're actually going to be talking about. Oh my gosh, I just blanked. That's awesome. This is why we don't do live.
Have you actually tried everything with your dog?
Have you tried everything with your dog? All right, my name is Bee. I am the administrator and moderator. I handle all the social media and uploading and things like that. And go on next.
I'm Norca Rodriguez, the dog guru. Training here out of Central Florida.
I'm Alexis, the vintage dog trainer out of Northern Utah.
And I'm Rachel from Training That Heals in New Jersey.
All right. So I know that this particular topic is a weird one because a lot of the time clients will just come and say, I'm sorry if you hear stuff in the background. It's about dinner time for the dogs, so you're going to hear people.
Okay.
A lot of people will come to you guys as trainers and say, I've tried everything. I've tried everything. First question I want to ask is, generally, have they even gotten anywhere near trying everything?
No,
there's a lot. There's even things that when we're working with dogs that we haven't, like with our board and trains, that we haven't even tried everything yet. There's so many things you can do with your dogs. I hear an echo. Do you guys hear echo?
The echo is footsteps.
Up.
the echo is. Wait, what?
I thought
It's just Rachel.
Yeah, whatever.
Alright.
Anyway, there's
Hi,
so many
Piper.
things that you could do with your dog, training wise. I mean, there's even different training methods. So you could even just in the realm of training, there's so many different styles that you could try. That one style might work better for your dog.
Yeah, I think a lot of people give up after like their pet store training or their basic obedience training, because people think like training stops after that that 6 classes you took at the pet store. Dogs have behavioral issues aside from like their basic obedience issues. So we have dogs that have anxiety. We have dogs that have separation anxiety. We have dogs that have aggression, fear. There's a lot of behavioral issues that a lot of people go to the vet for, not a trainer. And I think that's where the problem begins, is people go to the wrong person for advice when it comes to their dog's behavioral issues. They tend to go to the vet, and the vet tends to recommend medication.
Right.
There's a lot of vets that will recommend training, but the majority will recommend medication.
Right. Yeah.
I had that experience.
Where you got recommended to go to where you had the vet and they recommended medication?
No, actually. So, Sky, this one, come on.
So, by the way, everybody, there's three dog trainers in the room and 1 dog owner. So, B is actually a dog owner.
I am a dog owner, not a dog trainer. This is just my dog.
So she's speaking from experience here with everything she's speaking.
So this girl right here has some really high prey drive. She is also very food aggressive with other animals, not with me. Definitely sometimes with other humans. And she had gotten to the point where she was attacking my other dogs. She bit through Cowboy's leg. Fortunately, she missed anything vital. She tore up Bandit's face. The only one she hadn't torn up into would be 11, my youngest, and that's because he has the response of, I'm going to lay down and show my belly.
He's submissive.
Yeah. And when I got to the point where I was just at my wit's end, and I went to my vet and I was like, I don't know what to do. And my vet said, well, you need to get her into a board and train. And I was like, well, that's not going to happen anytime soon. What can I do until then? And she had me do medication for Sky.
What did they prescribe?
What?
What did they prescribe her?
It's right here. Amitriptyline.
What is it called?
And it what?
What is it called?
Amitriptyline. And it dampened everything about her. It dampened everything about her. She was slower. She was quieter. She was less smart.
Drugged up.
Yeah, she was just drugged up. And she was on meds for about 9 months.
Did you see a difference in behavior aside from that?
She wasn't as aggressive.
Okay.
But I think that's only because she was just tired all the time. She was foggy all the time. And when I weaned her off of it, I saw a definite increase in the aggression, but I also saw an increase of seeing my dog.
Okay.
Sorry, guys, I'm feeding while I'm doing this.
Yeah, me too. Same here. It's dinner time.
And she is happier off of it, but I've also, because I was weaning her off of it, I started about a month and a half ago, I think. She's all the way off them now, and she's been off of them for a little while. 2 months ago, she's been off of them for a little while. But she definitely had an increase in some pretty strong aggression when I brought her off the meds.
Do you think a little bit of that had to do with mood swings from being, with
part of it's mood swings. I did wean her off of it. It took about a month.
Okay.
And once she started coming off the meds, she lost any and all rights and privileges. And that has done more for her than the medication ever did. It's just implementing the structure of she has no rights.
That's what I think is like the bit. I muted because my cat was being really loud, so I'm sorry. I didn't want to like be super distracting. She's like kicking metal. That's something that I think is like the big disconnect when it comes to medicating our dogs, and like that being the only solution. Medication should always go alongside lifestyle change and training and structure and implementing that stuff. So a lot of times people get the recommendation from the vet and then they think that's the end all be all. They just give the pill and boom, things are going to get better. You're definitely going to see like a curb a little bit in like what's going on with your dog. Like maybe the anxiety lessens a little bit, but it's not going to magically go away. It's the same thing as when humans take medication as well. Like when you're a human and you're taking Prozac or you're taking Lexapro or you're taking something even heavier than that, you don't just take the pill and then boom, you're better. All that's doing is kind of taking the edge off a little bit and giving you the little bit of a leg up that you need to start implementing things into your life to better it. Like going to yoga, doing therapy, practicing breathing exercises, building up coping mechanisms to do these things. And I think that's the massive disconnect, because I know clients that reach out to us that their dogs are medicated. They're like, yeah, we've been doing, this medication for 6 months, a year. We're not seeing much of a change. Well, what have you been doing lifestyle wise? What have you communicated to your dog to change that change? So I'm sorry, it's gonna be a podcast and my cats are being a complete jerk today. I'm just like thoroughly.
We don't hear much
by them
you're
right
good.
now.
We actually don't really hear him.
No? Okay, good. So like I feel like that's always been the big disconnect when it comes to like medication and dogs. Like medication for behavior is what I specifically mean, just to clarify for those out there. Obviously, medication for your dogs can be good for things that's going on, but for behavior, it needs to go alongside something, definitely. And it shouldn't be a forever thing. There's very rare cases where I felt that it needed to be like a forever thing.
Facts.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you have any
Vintage is
experience
being
with
quiet
meds?
today. Vintage, what do you have to say about this?
Any experience with the meds there?
Kind of, sort of, actually. So I've got kind of not strong opinions, but strong opinions. I've experienced it more in the realm of people not understanding the difference between anxiety and drive in either. So I have high drive working line German Shepherd. You guys all see her regularly. You know she's super vocal. She's whiny about everything. She will just lay on place and whine and leave, and that's kind of typical for her.
She has a Malinois drive.
It's a little ridiculous. And so I've had comments before, not from my vet, because I luckily have like the best vet in the world. And he's just like, no, she's just drivey. But I've had it from family or people that I've run into, or like when I've gone to pet stores, where people are like, you should really medicate your dog. It would help with her anxiety. And it's like, no thanks. This isn't even anxiety. This is just, she's excited.
Erin would like to know what the difference between anxiety and high drive is.
I mean, so
Knowing your
so
breed
much.
helps.
Knowing your breed helps.
I think high drive is just energy that's it's mislocated. It's just it's energy
Right.
that's misplaced. And anxiety is it's mental. It's more of a it's
Like
Anxiety
mind.
typically has a cause too,
Right.
like separation anxiety, like they need to be by the person that they're clingy to, or
Right.
they have issues with barriers. So anxiety typically has like a cause, whereas like the drive is genetics, it's the dog's breed, it's their temperament. So like when you're dealing with like Sen, like the breed there is they are very typically high drivey. They got lots of drive in them. When I worked with a German Shepherd in my previous company, one of the dogs that we worked with, like that was the company dog that we did training with, was a German Shepherd. Oh my God, if we were not up by 7 a.m. every day walking that dog, it was like all hell broke loose.
Like a
And this was
rooster.
a fully trained dog. So that was, and if to the untrained eye, like hearing and seeing that, you might have thought that that was anxiety. But what it was the dog wanting to do its job, and
Right.
genetics and having to get all of that out.
Drive.
That's why it's so important to buy the breed or get the breed that is going to be good for your lifestyle.
Right. Yeah, no, and I kind of look at anxiety a lot too, of like a lot of your anxious dogs, like they can't work through what's going on. So you walk into the room for 2 seconds and you come back and they've eaten your curtains because they can't handle even 2 seconds being alone, or they're so anxious about whatever outside that
Car rides.
they can't sit, they can't lay down, they can't walk nicely, they can't focus on you. Their brain is entirely, pinpointed in on that one thing that makes them nervous or anxious. Whereas your drive, as soon as you kind of find that motivating factor, or you've kind of figured out what it is that they're needing, you have that focus, and you've got where they will kind of work through anything, as long as, obviously you've done some training. You can't take a dog with zero training that's high drive anywhere and expect them to do anything well. But when you have kind of that training there, like they can work through that high drive state of mind. Whereas a lot of your anxious dogs, they're not quite capable of grasping. They might be really slow to pick up on something new, or like there's kind of that lack of focus where you don't really exist in front of them anymore. Is kind of what I've experienced a lot with anxious dogs, of like they do everything in their power to look around you because they can't actually handle trying to focus in on you because they're so worried about that trash can way over there, or the car down the road, or whatever.
Yeah. It definitely takes, sometimes when you're dealing with certain breeds, it takes like a really good eye to catch it. We have one of the dogs that we have in right now, one of the board and trains, initially on his intake, from what I gathered, what we were told by the owners was like anxiety, separation anxiety, constantly nervous. And then too, like he was just really, he was a rowdy young dog. And so something right there automatically was like, something's not adding up. But, I took it at value and I took it in. And so he's in with us, and we're coming up on like a week in, and we definitely don't see, like, there might be a little bit of anxiety there, but just like your COVID puppy anxiety, nothing crazy. What it is, as we're working with him, is this dog just needs a way to get the drive out. He's like part pit bull. And so like that's where it's coming from, is he needs all of that to come out, and he has the will to exert the energy, and now just finding the right format to get that energy through. And right now, without that format, it's coming out as if he's like an anxious mess, but really it's just it's almost like frustration. That's the kind of what you could equate like drive to, is like frustration, because like they're trying to get that out and they either can't because of limitations, or you're not allowing it because you're misinterpreting it. And like that's what I would kind of boil drive down to, is like the dog is just getting frustrated. And that was kind of what was happening with him. So we quickly realized like we need to use that drive, and which when you're dealing with a dog like that, like it's really nice to train them up because you have something to motivate them and to get them going.
I love dogs with drive.
Yeah. Yes. Awesome. So I just reread the comment. He said it made sense. Awesome. Sometimes it's hard to differentiate it. Sometimes it can be a combination. It definitely can. But there is a difference, and that's what's important. I think it's also what I never really liked about the whole medication thing is the vets that do recommend it, like 9 times out of 10, the dog is not going to love going to the vet. Even a trained dog doesn't love going to the vet,
Right.
you know? So they, of course,
anxiety.
see a dog in a more anxious state, and then they're going to, try and sales pitch you into the medication. And I'm not like anti-medication. I think there's definitely a place for it. But I stand by my statement of, for owners listening, it's not just medication. Like you have to do some type of lifestyle change along with that.
100%. Agreed. Have you guys ever had to have one of your dogs on meds? Aside from B.
No, that was something. It was
Has been recommended.
Yeah, of course it was recommended. Like with Tater, especially when we first got him and like he was going to the vet. But like he never did well around guys, and the vet was a guy. So I mean, like I knew it was gonna be a recommendation, and it was like you can't go into the vet because of COVID, and he's
gonna be more nervous.
Yeah, back when I did it, the first vet visit he ever had, like they pulled him in the back, so he wasn't getting like observed with me there type of thing. So understandable why it wasn't even a great interaction for him. So they recommend it, and honestly they push it kind of hard. I had said no like 3 times, and he kept pushing it, and I'm like, listen, like I know what I'm doing, it's gonna be fine. And he, some vets go into like that guilt mode of like, think of the quality of life, and I'm like, trust me, I get it. I was like, I'm an advocate for the medication. I was like, but he doesn't need it because I know that like I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z. And he's a lot better now. Last time he went, the vet was like, yeah, I could see the difference. So,
and he's not on any type of medication, guys.
Yeah, not on any type of medication.
I'm a big advocate for train first. Always train first. Find a trainer. Try to figure out what's wrong with the dog as far as like behavioral. Like try to train with the dog first. And if you can't figure out through obedience training and through some rehabilitation training there, then go speak to a vet about medication.
Yeah. So Sen has, she was short term put on something similar to like Prozac, but it wasn't because of like baseline behavior. It was she had to be put on a steroid for an infection, and the steroid hulked her out. Because shepherds are very sensitive to steroids, it turns out. And so she went completely nuts while on the steroid, to the point of like she busted through 4 different kennels.
So the medication caused behavioral issues?
Yeah, so the steroid caused the behavior issue. So she busted through 4 kennels, broke some teeth, cut up her face, escaping from the kennels, like was chewing holes in carpet, like went really bad. And so her vet did put her on like a Prozac while she had to be on the steroid, and then weaned off of it as soon as she was off the steroid. And she went back to normal, typical Sen after the medication. And while she was on it, it didn't really do anything anyways. It kind of
takes a while to get into your system.
Yeah, and it's like a lot. It made the craziness of being on the steroid slightly more mild, but it was one that like after the steroid and she figured out she could break out of a kennel, I ended up having to get the velociraptor cage because then she just knew I can break out of here. I don't have to stay in here anymore.
Yeah.
So hers was kind of like a medication caused an issue. A medication was introduced to kind of counteract the issue from the first medication, and then once she could be off the steroid, the med for the behavior went away as well, and we took it back to kind of the training. because at that
Mhm.
point, like, she was a danger to herself,
Right.
and training isn't an instant fix. And so it was when I wasn't super thrilled with it. My vet wasn't even super thrilled with it, but he was like, this is kind of the only option you've got, and it'll be just a couple of weeks till we get her
Take it nice.
back to normal. And Sen has been just the dog that's had all of the issues of had a GI issue that led to a prescription food that she turned out to be allergic to, and then it led to a steroid because she was allergic to the food to fix the GI problem.
Mhm.
They're like children, guys. They're like children.
They are, yeah.
I think that kind of just sparked an important note that I would like to say. Now, we're trainers, we're not vets, but just like we recommend with trainers, if you're not comfortable with what was recommended to you, if you're not comfortable or vibing with the trainer in front of you, get a second opinion. The same thing goes for a vet. A lot of people think that just because a vet's a doctor, they have to take that word at value. We all know we've gone to human doctors that we didn't vibe with, or we didn't like what they said, or we didn't like how they did something, that we moved on to the next doctor. You could do the same thing with a vet, and a lot of people are uncomfortable doing that, and they don't know why. You have to advocate for your dog. If you feel like they're pushing something on you, you know, a lot of the big pushes that vets will make are medicating or going on the science diet food, or
That's a big one.
yeah,
That is a big one.
you know why? Because they get a kickback from it, and I
Because
get
it's
why
marketing.
they do it. Yeah,
Because it's marketing.
so be comfortable getting a second opinion, and if you feel that what they're saying isn't sitting right with you, or you're unsure, do your research, do your due diligence. That's the extent that I will say to my clients when they ask my opinion about like anything vet related, because we're not vets. But if you're uncomfortable with what they're saying, you're allowed to get a second opinion, you know. And you might like what you hear elsewhere, or you might find something on the web that tells you differently. So do your due diligence in that sense.
Or you might find a balanced trainer that can fix that right up.
Yeah. It depends on, it depends on what's going on. I think what's interesting about this conversation is we definitely all openly, as we were messaging each other earlier today and we decided we wanted to talk about this topic, we all openly have different opinions about this topic. Corey and myself are open with medication. We will give it to dogs that come to the board and train with us.
If they're prescribed, I give it to them,
Yeah, we've even recommended medication usage for some dogs. As we worked with the dog, halfway through, we realized that, there is definitely some type of chemical imbalance going on here, and this dog could really benefit from medication. We obviously all have different opinions here, and that's what I'm found so interesting about this topic. But ultimately, your dog is your dog, your decision, but no medication is ever a magic pill. It's not going to do it. Just like training with just the trainer is not a magic pill. You also have to do the work.
My God, and it's so much work.
There's a little bit of maintenance, guys. There's a little bit of maintenance.
Yeah.
Literally, this is how I spend my evening.
Is doing that. Yep.
Yeah, I'm teaching play to this ferocious. Where'd you go? Oh, there he is. Little ferocious little ankle biter there. He tried to eat me a couple times today.
Yeah.
Yes.
Piper says one of hers is on meds because he tried to eat his back leg at the joint. The vets aren't sure why, and otherwise his behavior is good.
Is that "Don't touch my damn dog," Piper?
Yeah, it is.
Hey, girl. How you doing?
I think she changed her name.
To Piper? Stop.
No, it's just because she's on her Facebook.
Oh, no, that's Facebook.
Oh, just so you
but I heard
guys know,
Piper, so I
we can't
figured.
really see the chat comments. We're not ignoring you. B's just reading them to us.
Yeah, I have my laptop open on the side.
I
We're
am
not
going to
technologically
tend to really only relay the questions that are related to the topic. Any other questions, I will respond most likely with DM them.
So
Awesome.
see, Piper's dog is more. That's a dog who's harming themselves from some sort of
something.
Yeah, there's an issue there. I had a client too that had a dog who excessively chased the tail, biting it, attacking it. I'm talking about like all day long, all day, and that I would recommend medication for.
Yeah.
If we try training and it doesn't work and the dog continues to do it, that's more neurological.
Yeah.
That's,
Right.
that's,
There's
that's a bigger
definitely,
issue.
I mean, that's our
There's a time and a place. Like for
Yeah.
me, Sky needs training, 100%. Her issue is training.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what a good girl! Look at you. She doesn't usually leave her face in that long. She needs training and not medication, and I know that. And it took a long conversation with Jerry to decide to take her off the medication. But there are going to be dogs that need it.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
If your dog got hit in the head by a horse, it's probably going to have some neurological damage.
For owners that are listening too, just so you know, when you do wean your dog off of medication or you're deciding to put them on medication, you are going to notice a shift in your dog. So don't freak out right away. Things have to rebalance out. Talk to your vet about making sure that it balances out in a good way. There's ways you can tier out the medication. But give your dog a good month or two to get reacclimated to their new biological setup without the medication or with the medication even. It's never a quick transition.
Not an overnight thing, guys.
Yeah.
I think it's also, I mean, so like we kind of already said, where sometimes we find another vet, we get a second opinion or a third opinion and make sure this is the right choice. Sometimes that happens with your trainers too, where you don't jive with the trainer, you need to find another trainer. And so I even have come across times where I've had clients where they've chosen to put the dog on medication just to help manage living with the dog while they found the right trainer to work with. And I think that's kind of important to note as well, is sometimes it does take time to find a trainer that knows how to work with your dog, that knows how to work with the problems that you're having, that you feel comfortable with. And so kind of sometimes those short term, you just need to be able to live with the dog while you're trying to find a way that can actually help you. For that long term change, that's the thing as well.
What happened this week, Norca? What sparked this topic for you?
It's a board and train. It's a board and train. One of the board and trains from the shelter came with medication, and it's not medication. He doesn't need medication. From my assessment and the last few days I spent with him, he's on his meds, but he doesn't require them. It's not, his anxiety is from the shelter environment. His anxiety is from all these dogs barking around him, the dogs next to him, the kennel issues, the guarding issues at the kennel. But I mean, I brought him home and I have not seen one. I mean, nothing that I saw at the shelter have I seen in my house. It's just kind of sad that vets just put these dogs on meds, and it's environmental. It's not even a training issue for this dog. It's just he's in the wrong environment.
Right. Yeah, it's a tough environment for dogs. It's very stressful in the shelters. We have a shelter rescue partnership program that we do here at Training That Heals, and our goal with it is trying to provide any bit of structure that we can for these rescues in these shelters where dogs are, and it's inherently stressful for a dog to be there. And then what happens is a dog gets stuck there because it's taking them a while to get adapted, and their behaviors do get worse because they're sitting there, or they get, there's a term for it that I'm not going to think of, but it's pretty much they just become kennel depressed. Yeah. There's a proper term for it in the rescue world, and I can't remember it off the top of my head right now. So what our goal is with the shelter and the rescue partnership program is to work with the volunteers, work with the employees of these organizations to teach them all how to do a bare minimum amount of structure that they can be implementing for all of these dogs when they're interacting with them. And if every single employee and volunteer is on the same page that's in that building and interacting with all those dogs, is interacting with them in the same way, we have a little bit of structure for these dogs and a little bit of sanity, consistency in their day-to-days. So something as simple as taking them on a structured walk, that's a little bit of, it's something they can expect every single day. holding them
Makes such a
accountable at
difference.
thresholds, leashing them up in an appropriate way. And it's safety too. It's teaching safety to the handlers and how to handle these dogs. But it's providing a little bit of structure and an unstructured, typically crazy environment for these dogs. I mean, you walk in a place like that and all you hear is barking all day, every day.
Yep.
So
I actually got an audio that I'm gonna post on TikTok because I was sitting in a kennel with a dog and I was just like, holy shit.
yeah.
This is a lot. Like the
Mhm.
noises alone, the barking, the dog across with the really bad anxiety that's just and
And imagine a dog that's been there for 6 months, a year.
a year, yeah, it's horrible. And I can see why those dogs get returned. Like I can see why they come back so fast. And I mean, they leave with issues. They leave with anxiety that they obtained inside of that environment. So I know
Yeah.
it just really it bothers me that medication is always pushed before you actually get to put in some work with the dog. And it's just
Right.
especially in dogs that are in settings like that. Like he
I
has
think
no
there's a
control over
couple
his
different
environment.
reasons why it's pushed. I think the main reason is money when it comes to just like any medication.
Yeah,
for
that's a
humans and
monthly
dogs.
bill right there.
Yeah, it's money, so it gets pushed because the vet wants the kickback, the big pharma wants the kickback, all of that stuff. And then I think the other reason, which is why we see it in the rescue industry, and then we also see it with owners who don't want to do training, is because of the convenience of it. And people do think if they just do the medication, it's the easier option over training, because training does take a commitment, and 9 times out of 10, it's a larger investment. But I'm sorry, folks, there is not a quick solution to dealing with leash reactivity or separation
Raising your
anxiety.
dog. To raising
You
your
have
dog.
to.
There's no quick
You
fix.
have to do it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people fail to to actually train and work with their dogs. And
Well, and even if you have a dog with a lot of behavioral problems like I have with 11, it was a week of working with him constantly, and I was already seeing changes.
Right.
It just takes dedication.
it does.
It does. It does.
That-
You'll see
that literally
changes.
is.
Some dogs take a little bit longer than others, and you don't compare timelines with other people and their progress. But you will see. I mean, I even say it for like clients that reach out when we do sessions. You're going to see a shift in that 2 hours that we're with you. You're going to see a shift. I'm going to leave 3 days from now. You're going to text me, and you're going to see another shift. You know, it does happen. You will see progress. Maybe not the progress you exactly want. Like maybe you're not going on a 7-day vacation.
Rome wasn't built in a day.
Yeah, but it's progress, and that's big stuff.
Yeah.
And when I always say to clients who are struggling with if they should even get training, like it's a huge investment, they don't know if they could do it time-wise. My last little thing that I like to leave with people, and I don't intend this in like a shameful way, but it's just my last little please help your dog hope line that I'm casting. Your dog is in a lot of distress. Your dog mentally is struggling. Mentally, their world is just chaotic. You have the ability to help that and sort that out. That should be like the biggest gift you ever want to give to your dog. And that's my like last little thing that I always kind of put out there to people that are on the fence, or maybe they're struggling with the concept of the type of training that it is. Like pure communication is what your dog needs. That's going to be saving grace for them in that sense. And sometimes that helps people make the connection in their head.
Word.
I think even like so something I do especially like if I have like a consultation with a client and then it's a week or 2 before we can actually meet to start training. I will still kind of like leave them with like try for the next week, like dog on the leash 24/7 inside and outside the house. Like start just implementing that little bit of structure. Stop using words, just communicate with leash and body. Just to give them something to kind of do and get them through to when we can start working in a week or so.
They're already seeing an improvement.
And they already start to see an improvement because they just took a dog that dog has no clue what it's supposed to be doing. It has free roam of everything, can do anything it wants, and is kind of lost in that environment. And now the dog has this clear direction of, oh, I have to stay in this area. I have to just learn to lay down and relax. And some of kind of my favorite exercises to work on with dogs is just teaching them how to be relaxed in an environment,
Mhm.
how to just calmly exist in a space.
Mhm.
And it's just, on the leash, teaching them, nope, you can just sit here and be calm and be relaxed while I'm working. And then we move that outside. And then we go in the yard and do that. Or eventually we get to a point in training where we've kind of worked through a lot of behavior problems. Dog knows how to behave. And we start taking that to public spaces to work on.
Mhm.
We go to lunch, we go to coffee shops, and we've set up that foundation. And now it's just reminding the dog, hey, even in this new space, you only get the length of your leash, and you have to just lay down and be calm and process the environment. And that's, I think, one of the most important things we can teach dogs is how to just calmly process what's going on in this crazy, busy human world, because they're not equipped to deal with it by themselves.
Right. It can be very overly stimulating. There's a lot of things going on. I tried to explain the concept of outings to my boyfriend the other day because he doesn't understand why I work till like 8, 9 o'clock at night every day. I'm like, listen, like, you're working like an hour or two with each dog we have in. I'm like, we have 2 dogs in right now. Next week we're gonna have 3 dogs in. I was like, plus we do sessions. Plus I gotta call people who contact forms. Plus social media. Like trying to explain to him why our job is so complex. And he's like, well, can't you just, and I'm like, well, we had to go to, Tractor Supply today. And then we had to go to Home Depot. And he's like, why don't you not go to those places? And I'm like, we have to get these dog on outings. He's like, just do the training, like just at Corey's house. Like, why are you going places? I know you want it
They
to be
need the
fun.
exposure.
I know you want, and this is what he said. He's like, I know you want it to be fun and you want to go to those places and you want to like shop because he thinks we just go there just to shop. He's like, but just stay at Corey's house and you'll get it done quicker. And I'm like, I have to take the dogs into the world and show them how to exist. I'm like, that's the bulk. That's like what is important. And like, he didn't understand. Like I had to explain to him in like 7 different languages of like, that's what training is. It's just I was like, why do you think last week we had a city dog? I had to drive 45 minutes to the closest city to do exposure work in the city so that the dog was getting like stuff and getting the same vibe that he was. Like his parents wanted to be able to do like outdoor dining. Well, in my town of Jackson, New Jersey, we don't even have a restaurant. So we had to go find one and do it so we could get that in for the owners and they could get that set that expectation of that outing. I mean, that's what the good stuff is. And a lot of owners undervalue just existing with their dog in an environment. My biggest piece of homework that I give clients is, especially now that it's nicer out, pack yourself a picnic, go to a busy park, keep your space, put yourself in the picnic, eat your lunch, put your dog in a downstay, and just take in the world. As things come up that you need to communicate with your dog, communicate them, but just exist there. That's big stuff for your dog.
I think it's hard. It's really hard for people to not include their dogs in everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like, the dog has to be part of it, not like the dog can be there. I take my dogs places and my dogs are on a down, like behaving. And everybody like, why is your dog so sad? Like, my dog's not sad. My dog's working right now. My dog's doing what they're supposed to be doing here, which is staying out of people's business, just like my kids would.
Yeah.
It's people just want their dogs to like be free and run and do what they want to do, and most of them are not behaved enough to handle that. So it's important that your dog does learn to just exist and not be part of their environment and be relaxed and calm if possible and if trained to be. But the only way your dog will get there is by hey, Corey, you listening? Boyfriend Corey. Is his name Cody or Corey? What's boyfriend's name?
Joe.
Oh, it's Joe. Oh yeah,
Corey's business partner.
That's the boss. So Joe, you gotta listen up, Joe. The more places you take your dogs during training, the better it benefits their learning process. It's just they pick up on stuff a lot faster. They enjoy training a lot more. It's important that she gets out with her dogs, man, and you should join her because it's probably a lot of fun. Yeah, that was one thing where my friends would be, oh, want to get a drink? Can I bring a dog? Like, oh, can we go downtown and do? Yeah, can I bring a dog? Like, yeah, I have boarding trains. My boarding trains have to get out, and these events are perfect because there's a lot of people, a lot of dogs around. There's a lot of distractions, and all that benefits my dogs in training. So, environmental changes. I mean, I think that's the best part of the boarding train because your dog will go out with us in 14 days more than he has with you in a whole year. Like we get your dogs out there, we get them exposed to environments. So yeah, Rachel is completely right.
I think that's where there's a lot of confusion over like what is socialization.
Yes.
Because
But that's another topic,
like,
guys.
Yeah,
that's
so, like,
next week. No.
we could have a whole thing on socialization. But so often people think socialization is the dog needs to meet everybody. They need to go meet the other dogs, and they need to meet the people out and about. And all we're teaching
Dog parks.
And dog parks. Where everybody in the world that wants to say hi to your dog, say hi to your dog. And then the dog just learns the world is really exciting and really overstimulating, and everyone is here for my entertainment.
Or they learn that they have to fend for themselves and keep people away and bite and growl.
Yep. Or you get the opposite where
because you won't advocate for your dog.
Yep. Or you have the dog that they need you to advocate for their space because they are not the dog that's the social butterfly that's super friendly with everybody. And then we end up with a dog that nips at people or starts showing concerning behaviors because we kind of failed at socializing properly, where it's just, hey, exist in the space, ignore all the things that are going on. You're just here to listen and to relax and be a dog in a well-mannered space. And there's a time and a place to let a dog go run around and be free and be crazy and do their thing. But those are very specific places where dogs get to go do those things.
What is she doing?
That is not a lap dog, B. B,
it's not.
This is a lap dog. I don't know what that is, but 11 is not a lap dog.
This is a lap dog.
This is 5 pounds of dog. How many pounds of dog is that?
60.
Oh yeah, that's not a lap dog.
You want to top everyone out, Sen, and get in my lap? You want to get in my lap.
Place? Is that in place?
Yeah, Sen's in place. Sen is out
Okay.
for once while we're doing an episode.
I think that you bring
Show
up
off
a good
your
point,
puppy.
Alexis, because that exposure and that socialization doesn't just touch upon exposure and socialization. It touches upon your dog regulating their energy, keeping in mind their mindset, regulating that themselves without relying all the time forever on communication from you. It touches upon advocacy. A big thing is like your dog needs to know that you're not going to allow every single dog in person to come over to them. And if they feel like you're allowing every single dog in person to come over to them, that's where we start to run into leash reactivity, bites, redirecting, getting fearful of people. So because you didn't advocate for them, your dog starts to advocate for themselves.
Yep.
It's a big thing that Corey and I deal with all the time. Speaking of outings, you know, we were just on an outing today. We had the one board and train. We had a board dog in that was staying with us, and we brought one of her dogs, who is a pup, who we're raising. Well, I'm not doing shit. She is. Who she's raising. And I'm pretty much the terrible aunt. Like, I'm the worst dog trainer ever when it comes to those pups.
You're the one that gives them the sugar and sends them home.
I'm like giving them like treats like every 2 seconds. I'm like, look at you. And so we're out, and somebody just walked right up to us with the dogs. And I immediately, because I had the board and train dog, I was like, no, I'm sorry. But what happens is the Kleekai, which I sent you guys all a picture, they're really freaking cute. And everybody, when there's a Kleekai with us, we get so many. What is that? Who can I pet? Every single time. At least 50 people. And I wish I was exaggerating. One day we are gonna film it because it's absolutely insane that people
you don't
just
see
come
them
over.
around often.
Yeah,
I may have met one for an evaluation once.
Right. People just come right up because they're such a good looking breed and a cute dog. And what happens is the breed does get nervous. They are a naturally nervous breed. So when they have somebody coming into their face, so she's raising 2 puppies right now, Ruka and Romy, and we were out today and somebody came right up and like we had to actually get a little bit like tiffy of like, no, please don't, because those puppies can very easily be derailed for the rest of their lives if Corey didn't advocate for them properly. I mean, we had I think it was last spring, it was like before COVID, we were out at like a fair and we like had the dogs, and I'm not even kidding, we honestly left because it was getting that bad that we would be walking through crowds and people would just be like picking up her dog.
Hell no.
reaching down
I
as
wish.
we're actively
I
walking.
wish somebody would. I wish.
As it's not even like we were standing there. We're like actively walking, and people are like grabbing at her dog, grabbing at the leash. She finally like snapped, and somebody like got into with her, and they're like, "You didn't have to be like mean," and she's like, "You
Yeah,
didn't
you
have to
do.
touch my dog."
You do have to
Because
be mean.
they're with a reserved breed like that, you can very quickly derail them to once again there. And then guess what, then she's hiring a trainer a year or two from now because her dog is extremely fearful. It's like what it is. So advocating for your dog and doing that socialization, all that proper stuff, like that's how you get your dog in that right mindset. And that's big stuff. That's what we do as board and train. We pretty much let your dog know, because we're a fresh person in their life. Here's what it's like to live with somebody who's advocating with you, somebody who has rules and structure and is 100%.
That's why your dog trusts us more than they trust you.
100% of all that all the time, and then we show you how to do it, and you do it for your dog from that point on. That's all a board and train is. I mean, it's not even necessarily that we always need time. It's sometimes that we simply need to get your dog away from you, so that we could open up that opportunity to implement the structure and the training. The majesticness. just
100%.
squeezing right in there.
Aaron says, what should an experienced person do if someone's bringing a dog into an office to be trained for socialization and they start acting out and the owner's not paying attention?
Wait, what was it? Let me read it.
I can't even read. I can only see 3 comments online.
What should an experienced person do if someone is bringing a dog into an office to be trained for socialization and they're starting to act out and the owner is not quite paying enough attention?
Well, the owner should have this dog next to them and on a place or down. This dog shouldn't be running around your office. So I would complain to your manager.
Once again, socialization does not mean your dog getting to do whatever they want. It should still be structured, especially in a work environment. That's just kind of annoying. At that point, they're just bringing their dog to work just for their dog to get comfortable going to work. That's not socialization. Socialization doesn't even necessarily mean interaction with anything or anybody.
And I've experienced that with service dogs, actually.
What happened?
Service dogs. I've experienced that with a service dog somewhere. I went into this little, it was like a little convention or something. And they had a couple service dogs there. And this lady had her dog running around, literally just greeting and jumping and going all over, just being a pet, saying hello to everybody. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, my client gets a lot of shit for her service dog because it's a little breed. It's like a Maltese mixed with something, but this guy does his job, and he does a very, very good job. Mm-hmm. And this other dog's like a golden doodle or golden retriever or something, and she's just running around with her service dog vest on, pretending to be a service dog and completely acting like a pet. Mm-hmm. Running around aimlessly, not having a job. And that looks bad. It looks bad. Sit. Good boy. Down. You're so sassy, man. Anybody want a little sass? Yeah, let's show. There's a little sass that needs to go with you because he's sassy.
How old is he?
He's 7 months old. He's a teenager.
He's like full grown.
He is full grown. A whole 5 to 7 pounds.
Yeah.
It's a burrito.
It is a burrito.
He has no tail, so it's funny.
You know what we could talk about too, because it kind of ties in with the medication, this like big CBD craze too.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So
I actually I tried to use the CBD for inflammation for my dog, and it worked for my dog's inflammation. As far as behavioral stuff, I've never used it for behavioral.
Yeah.
For calming and those calming treats.
The only thing I would say for behavioral that like I mean, like we obviously it's good to give your dog, you know, it's healthy, it's good to give them, it's good for inflammation, it's good for pain if you have an older dog, things like that. When they say calming, they don't mean like if your dog has separation anxiety, like give them CBD oil and that's magically gonna cure it. What they mean is like if you're gonna go on a car ride that's longer than normal, like that would help. CBD would help in that case. And that's like the extent of behavioral that I would like recommend it for. Because once again, it comes down to when you're dealing with behavioral, there is no quick solution. The solution is training and relaying of structured foundation with your dog and relationship change.
Mm-hmm. No.
I have never felt super comfortable with like recommending or speaking on too much about CBD just because especially for pets, there's not enough regulation yet.
Mm-hmm. It's no, it is. It's newer.
The studies haven't really been done.
So like the studies haven't been done. There's not enough like quality control regulation.
Yeah, everybody's making CBD now.
Yeah, so
Oh my God, right.
never feel particularly comfortable with it. And so, you know, there's more regulation knowing like this isn't actually gonna cause harm or like this is good quality things, because
Right.
there's definitely, I mean, you can have a range of really great quality CBD oil and some not so great quality. And it's kind of
There's
hard to
different
know.
variants of it too. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't know
there's
what
different variants, and it's hard to know unless, you know, there's any sort of, what are you doing?
Like a scientific study.
Yeah, like, what?
If
I'm distracted by the cat.
you missed our last
Lying
week's
at the wall.
podcast, like,
Oh, the scientific study.
go ahead and
Maybe
check
that'd
that
be the
out,
one
guys.
Alexis does. She can look into a CBD scientific study.
We'll come back to that in a couple episodes.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to see more science behind it and more thorough testing and some quality control regulation.
No, I can respect that. It is newer. That, you know, tread lightly, and you know, once again, it always comes down to do your own research. But yeah, there's not a ton that you can even look into because it's so new for humans, let alone pets.
Right.
I personally oh God, what's she doing? Stop. I personally
You got something on your shoulder there, Alexis?
Yeah.
It's her small dog. It's her small dog.
Alexis, you got something on your shoulder? It looks looks alive.
What are you doing?
Got a bird.
Yeah, it's
It's a human.
dog
I sit here.
and a bird. One critter.
Is this like a
Human
new
is-
thing that she's learned lately?
Yeah, this is the new thing of if I'm sitting in a way where she can't sit in my lap,
Just call it place.
Mm-hmm.
then she's on my shoulder.
Call it place.
That's funny.
Just call it place.
Find a spot to sit.
So what we could talk about too
I got-
is like separation anxiety specifically, because this is always a hot topic, especially on TikTok. I don't know if you guys notice that, if you've ever made any videos about it, but it always blows up because people have, it's a tough pill to swallow. Speaking of medication, it's a tough pill to swallow, separation anxiety, because people do not want to admit that they caused it.
I caused my dog separation anxiety. All 4 of them. It's my
Most
fault.
of you guys have.
It's a tough pill to swallow. And it's one of those things that if you're dealing with separation anxiety, which is, in my opinion, one of the harder behavioral things to deal with, like, because it's so personal, because it's all behavioral stuff is a direct correlation to you. But separation anxiety means you have to let go of some of the things that you like about having a dog, like having cuddle time in your bed and all of that stuff.
You're not free roaming your house.
Yeah. So separation anxiety is always one of the harder things, not harder to train, but just harder because the owners struggle with it so much because it's a lot of personal involved in it.
There's human emotion behind it. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was particularly difficult for me when I started training 11, and Jerry said, "Do any of your dogs sleep with you?" And I said, "Yes." And she goes, "Not anymore."
You wanted to cry. Say it. You wanted to cry.
I
You're
did
about to fire
because
her, like, sorry, Jerry, I can't work.
I
with
got
you."
I got so spoiled with my service dog before he passed away because I had him for 10 years, no behavioral problems. And he slept with me and woke me up from my night terrors. Well, I don't currently have a service dog,
Right.
but having a dog in bed helps. But with behavioral issues, everybody sleeps in a kennel.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
It's
and that's not a lifelong thing either. Okay, so don't be discouraged that my dog has separation anxiety. Oh my God, he has to spend the rest of his life in a crate overnight. That's also temporary. It's not. The more you work at it in the beginning, the better your dog will be later on in the future. So, in a few months, maybe in a year or so, your dogs will be able to sleep with you, and they will have that freedom to roam your house and be able to be trusted. So know that they're not going to destroy
Just Sky.
things.
I don't want 4 dogs in bed with me. None of them are under 50.
That's what I'm
under
saying,
50
like-
And your
pounds.
partner, that's a lot of warmth.
Yeah.
Wow,
Tater's
wow.
at a point where he's definitely like his separation anxiety is, it's pretty much diminished. There's a little here and there, it'll come back up, but that's on me. I wouldn't even call it separation anxiety at that point. It's just some like behavioral
Sit.
creeping back up. But I really don't want him sleeping in the bed because I don't want to lose that much more space in my own bed. But I will say, like, initially what he struggled with is he was like with the separation anxiety, he was so territorial over me and protecting me that he became territorial over the bed as well when I was allowing a little bit of freedom. So I did away with it completely for almost an entire year. And only in like the last, probably since like quarantine, like the beginning of quarantine last year, is when I started allowing him back on the bed again. And he does really good with it now. He's not territorial on it. People can come into my room and he doesn't like growl or, lunge at them. He's like sleeping. He's very, and so it's not the point of this is not to always put Tater on a pedestal of he's the best separation anxiety
he's
dog.
rehabilitated and he's doing awesome.
Right. It's to speak to the after, because there was a point where there was a point even like 6 months ago where I was like, felt like, oh my God, he's never going to get past this, or he's never going to get better. Every single hurdle you will get through to some degree. It might not look like what you thought it might look like, but it's going to look better.
Process is process.
Progress is progress big time. And like I always say, celebrate the small things. I mean, there was a time that I didn't think Tater was even going to be able to be out of the crate.
It's a compound effect, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys get my updates that are like silly little stuff where I'm like, oh my God, they weren't another bear today.
They're not silly little stuff because a few months ago you were not able to do half of these silly little things with your dogs. Like take them places. Hey, leave it. No, leave it. No.
I think
so sassy.
The other hard pill for people to swallow is waking up to the realization that they themselves have some type of anxiety or separation anxiety going on with their dog. So it's not even just the dog that's anxious about leaving the crate. It's like, but I need the dog with me while I take a shower.
Right.
Like, I just like their company while I'm having a bath. Or,
that's human. That's a human thing. It's not even a dog thing.
It's like the...
I've never understood that because
the anxiety in the dog, because the human itself is the one that's like, well, I need the dog with me all the time and I need all this constant affection, and we kind of put too much on our dogs.
You may need to see a therapist, not your dog.
I could never understand the bathroom while they're bathing, because all I could think is I like bubble baths and I certainly don't want my dogs drinking that.
I've seen those videos where
I used
people
to
are
leave
like in the bathtub and their dog just gets in it.
I used to leave my door like cracked, and the dogs used to always nose their way in and then stick their head in the shower and just peek in, like, dude, get out of here, pervert.
That's what my cats do. Anytime they hear me turn the shower on, I have to close the bathroom door like before I turn the shower on, because the second they hear the shower come on, they come running. Because they just want to sit on the edge of the tub like while I'm in there, and they just like stare at me and they like swatting at the water, and I'm like, you guys are freaks. Like, I'm talking like running from across the house.
Hey, Snoop! Sorry, my doorbell's going off. And by my doorbell, I mean my dogs.
both of mine just kind of do their own thing while I take a shower. I don't know, because I would slowly like the bathroom door open so I can hear if one of them starts doing something they shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
And yeah, they just do their own thing. Luckily, neither of them.
Well, lucky you.
Like
my dogs are in their crate.
Like in the shower, and then she goes back out, and she's like, "Okay, you're in here."
My wiener dog, if I leave the door cracked, she'll lay on the bath mat on the floor. She'll just lay on it, and just kind of sit there like a weirdo.
Yeah.
I have to close the door because I have 4 dogs and a cat who tries to pull me out of the bathtub by my hand.
Nice. Nice.
Done, quick.
I don't understand cats, man. Never will.
I don't.
They don't.
They don't need you. Yeah, exactly.
They're aliens. That's my opinion.
That's debatable. This one's awfully needy.
Oh, yeah, no, they're
As you can
needy.
tell, she's needy. She's all over me all the time.
Yeah, no, they're needy, but they don't make sense either. Like, they're just batshit crazy. But I think to bring it back to dogs, I think, Alexis, you were touching on a really good, important topic with the humans. And then that is sometimes it's a hard pill to swallow because we don't want to admit what we needed from the dog or how much we relied on them. And I think it's tough for us as humans to not place this like pressure, if you want to call it that, on our dogs to
It is
deal
pressure.
with
I think.
Hmm?
I think it is pressure. It is pressure to them. They're pretty sensitive for the most part. At least dogs I've encountered are pretty sensitive. And you're putting your emotional needs on a dog that is not trained for that.
No.
That is a lot of pressure.
Dead.
Right. And then on top of that, and that's just like what we're talking about, like interacting with your dog in like what we would call as trainers inappropriate ways. So like crying into them or like talking to them or like constantly cuddling with them. Like those are all over exuberant, like not good interactions. What you also have to consider is your dog is also living with you. So the other thing your dog is seeing is if you and your significant other are fighting all the time, or if you and your kids are crazy, they're seeing that too. They're seeing all the social interactions that you have. If you're having a lot of get-togethers often, they feel that. And trust me, that's pressure for dogs. And for some dogs, it's more so than others. So they're living with that all also. And they're also registering all that stuff. And most dogs have a hard time processing all that stuff because this is a world that they are not equipped for. They're not equipped for a human world. We as humans are trying to put them in there. We want them at the Thanksgiving Day table. They don't need to be at the Thanksgiving Day table. You know, they are trying to exist in a world that they are not equipped to exist in.
They weren't meant for it. Yep.
One of the things that I learned to do when I had Sparky and that I've transferred over to the dogs I have now is if me and my partner are going to have a discussion, a capital D discussion.
Yeah.
Disagreement.
Dogs are kenneled in a different room.
Right.
The door is closed. They cannot see it. They cannot hear it.
Yeah. That's a big thing I have to get into habit-wise too. And that's a personal thing I'm willing to admit because I think as a human, it's important for owners to hear this because I knew that this was something hard. This was the hard for me to admit as a human. I'm Italian. We get loud. We get boisterous. Sometimes we throw
Russians here have the same issue.
Sometimes we throw things. And for Tater, when I got him with a fear reactive dog, that shit didn't fly no more.
You gotta be careful.
I had to check myself real quick.
Yep.
Real quick. The first week, the reason why I have his teeth marks on my hip bone is because the first week he's home, I learned real quick that that's not going to work with Tater in the house. And so I had to get in the habit as a human when we were going through the training process of like advocating for my dog, advocating. And if I knew like things were about to go down in the house or like I was frustrated or I was in my feels or I just needed to punch the wall or something, I made sure that Tater was away and he was in his safe zone and he didn't see it. And like to this day, even last night, Joe and I, my boyfriend, were getting into it. I could tell the conversation was getting a little bit heated. And I wanted to get up and leave the room. And so what did I first do? Take kennel. Oh, no, not right now. No, you can sit down.
It's a good boy, Tater. It's
You
a
can
good boy.
And that was the first thing I did because I wanted to create a safe space for him because if he stayed out, he wouldn't know what to do with all of that communication and that thing going on. So that's
this happens with excitement, just like with play, with kids playing too, guys.
Yeah.
A lot of people think their dogs are getting aggressive and your dog is not. Your dog's perception of your children playing and screaming and or you playing and play fighting and screaming is to them, it's not fake. It's not play. They're just looking at your body language. You seem like you're in, in some sort of distress. Your tone is different and they want to help. And it happens. I had a rescue. I had a foster for about a year almost. His name was Zeus. He was a pit bull mix. And anytime my nephew would like like screaming excitement, this dog will go berserk in his kennel. So I had to be careful when I had Zeus out of the kennel, and my nephew had to be calm. He had to sit down, or he had to be in his room, because I couldn't risk, this dog misinterpreting play for something else,
Right. Right.
Right.
I have
So
to
They
be
don't-
really careful with Sky with that. Like, I can't be
Yeah.
visibly angry and
Mhm.
verbally angry if she's in the room. I can't. She immediately gets
They
her
pick up
tongue goes up and she starts looking at the person that I'm interacting with, and I'm like, oh no.
How can I help,
Especially if
Mom?
you're dealing with a dog that's like protective, like they're protective over you,
Leave it.
and that's
Leave
something
it.
that you have to be careful on. So when we say advocate for your dog, we don't just mean like don't tell people not to pet your dog. You have to
Right.
advocate for them and their needs. So if you feel like you're getting tense like I did, the Italian in you is coming out. You have to take a step back. It's the same thing to advocate for your dog. If you are pissed off and you just got home from work and you're in the middle of training your dog, maybe don't pick up the leash right then and there.
Yep.
'Cause that's not fair to your dog. That's going to be the interaction that they have with you. Go pour yourself a glass of wine. Go take a bubbly bath without your dog.
Dogs are
And then
so good.
And then go back to it. And you'll be in a better headspace. That's also advocating for your dog. That's setting you guys up for success.
The other thing that I had to learn that was advocating for my dogs is when they are having it, like when it's had 2 or 3 days of rain, because I live in Georgia, and I'm at the point where I have had up to here, I put them in their kennels and I leave the house. This is not their fault. Like, there's only so many enrichment games you can do. There's only so much you can do to make them, less antsy.
Right.
And I will remove myself, just go somewhere else for a couple hours and cool myself off from wanting to turn them into tacos.
And this kind of applies to on walks when you have a reactive dog, guys. The way you respond to that reaction transfers over on the leash. So if you spot the dog first and you're already you can't transfer that energy over to your dog.
In the same sense too, like getting frustrated with your dog is pointless. They don't register that frustration, and honestly, they might perceive it as like it can be scary for them. Mm-hmm. So like if you are feeling the need to yell at your dog, please remove yourself from the situation and just take a breather and then go back to it. Trust me, been there, done that. There are times I have 3 pets in one room with me and 2 other humans. It gets tense up in here. It gets tense. But they're animals. They don't know. It's on you to work them through that stuff, to communicate. So I know it's tempting to get frustrated, but take a breather. I mean, even me today, we're working with one of my board and trained dogs. And I was getting tense because everything I was trying, I was going through the toolbox. We were running out of tools in the toolbox. And I was getting like very frustrated. And after like 2 or 3 reps of I was getting increasingly frustrated, Corey finally said to me, tap out, take a seat, eat your lunch. I'll get up, I'll work her. Because what's happening is I am no longer being fair for that dog. Because now I'm no longer putting the dog's needs first. I am putting almost like my vendetta first of like getting what I want. And that's not okay in any means, in any case. Tapped out, took 10 minutes for myself, got back up, and then guess what? We had an amazing confidence work exercise. I just needed that break for myself. I needed that perspective shift. That's something that as an owner, you guys have to get in the habit of doing so that, especially when you're living crazy lives, that you get in the habit of doing that for yourself so that your dog is getting more out of you as well. You're getting more out of each other.
Yeah.
Well said.
Piper says she's ended sessions with clients because their dog was feeding off the body language and it wasn't benefiting either one to be training.
Right.
Have you guys had to do that?
If you're ever in a session and the dog is, with you, if you go into a session and you are in the right headspace, then you should definitely like either cancel that session before you get there if you're not feeling up to it because you're not going to be at your best. Or, you can just walk out of a session, comp the session, and reschedule. And the owners would respect that more than you putting out bad quality work. But if it's the reason why the energy's off is because of the owners, I've pulled dogs away into a separate room before to get the dog dialed in. It's a little awkward.
I've yelled at some dads because, tone and approach is way too firm.
He's chilling after we did our little bit of training while I was sitting here.
Good place. I don't think I had to turn anybody away though.
I think you kind of talked about this a little bit last week, Alexis, with like when we were talking about like men and in the sessions and something with like their energy.
Yeah, so I've encountered where like sometimes you almost have to talk with the man of like you need to just tone it down, chill it out, be a little bit more fun, be a little bit more lighthearted about it. Because I run into a lot here. I think just culture where I live. The men don't have as much to do with the dog and everything. And so the dogs tend to be very sensitive to them because the male in the house turns into kind of just the authority figure of they have to listen to him. He's probably going to walk in kind of big, tough, a little bit louder, a lot more firm. But without the right relationship between a human and dog, you can't really correct a dog with no relationship there. And so I kind of sometimes have to just kind of do some coaching with men of like how to talk a little bit lighter and higher pitch and make things a little bit more fun, kind of get them to not take everything quite so seriously.
Right.
Because I've definitely run into a lot of like people just kind of sticking in this bubble of like they are almost self-conscious about sometimes what you have to do to work a dog.
Yeah.
Like, and it's kind of like I don't care, but like if I'm out walking a dog, especially a dog that tends to be very distracted, like I sound like a nut job. Like I sound like a crazy person. I'm babbling away. I'm got the noise, higher pitched voice, like whatever random stuff just blurts out of my mouth just to keep the dog up and focused. Yeah. And a lot of people aren't comfortable with that. And so then you pass the leash off and you're like, hey, like you got this, you can do this. And they're just like stone cold face, let's go. And the dog is just like,
I love working with teenagers for that reason. They have so much personality.
And so I think it's definitely one of kind of always as the human remembering, like the dog is going to feed off of your body language, off of your tone of voice, off of how you're moving. Because dogs don't understand English. They don't understand the words coming out of my mouth. They're really looking at body cues and really subtle little things and little micro facial expressions and how we're making eye contact and
your tone
and tone of voice and how we're saying something or how we're moving our body. Because there's a big difference between, a dog gets up off of place and they're not supposed to and just calm, stand up, take a step towards them for spatial pressure, or we like throw the hands down and stomp our way over the dog. The dog's just like
get scary into place now.
And they take off running because the dog's like, this person's scary. And so I think it's kind of like it takes a lot of body awareness, and that's something a lot of people struggle with learning. Because I think as humans, we tend to not be the most body aware creatures.
We don't like being body aware in front of other people. Like,
no,
I'm just not at all body aware, which is part of my problem.
But it's funny because we communicate through a lot of body language throughout the day. Most of our language is body language.
Right.
But then like
we're not communication.
But then we're not comfortable expressing that or like
moving our body in a certain way in front of other people, getting loosey goosey.
Yeah, like we get self-conscious about things.
And I didn't learn to do that until I started working with dogs. So I did not know how to take out I would never high pitch yell good boy ever in my life if I wasn't a dog trainer. Like I'm too cool.
I did it with horses.
I've never trained a horse.
That's a good field.
But they're like 1,000-pound dogs.
B, have you trained horses?
No, I rode a lot.
Oh, okay, cool. I was gonna say then you're a dog trainer already.
No. I just rode a lot, and when you're riding a horse that is fond of brushing you off on trees and they don't brush you off on their favorite tree, you definitely tell them they're a good girl.
Yeah. Amazing.
All right, ladies.
I don't know.
We got to wrap it up. It is now an hour and 15 minutes in.
I kind of.
It was great as always.
I had one more important thought.
Get it.
Do it.
To tie back, because we've kind of been talking anxiety this whole time. And I know a lot of people seek out owning dogs because of their own anxiety or their own depression or whatever they've got going on in their life. And I think it's really important to value dogs for the amazing creatures that they are. And they can be helpful with dealing with those things, but not in the way that a lot of people think of, oh, I'm sad the dog's going to sit and cuddle with me and everything's going to be great. Like, dogs help us grow into being better people because it forces us to create structure in our own lives.
Mm-hmm.
It forces us to get up and do the same routines and get outside and walk the dog and create an environment that the dog can thrive in. And subconsciously, we are doing the exact same thing. So we're trying to create this fantastic environment for the dog, and we're doing all of these things for the dog. And then somewhere along the way, we wake up and we're like, oh, hey, I don't feel so shitty today.
Mm-hmm.
This is cool. And so I think, like, dogs can be absolutely fantastic companions for, you know, any person, but especially with people that, you know, maybe have some mental health things to work through, but not in the coddling, lovey sort of way. It's in the way of creating structure and setting a routine and sticking to that. And they're not going to be like a fix-all. Dogs aren't our band-aids as humans. We just have to grow into a stronger person ourselves to provide the environment that's fair for these amazing creatures to live in. And so a lot of dog training ideologies and practices and things can kind of tie back into our own lives of, okay, so we place command train a dog, like you can place command train yourself. If you have anxiety, like you're having a really anxious day and you're struggling to settle down and wind down, like you can teach yourself a place command, just like you taught your dog.
Meditation. Meditation is place for humans.
Like, right. I suck at meditating though, which is I'm a yoga teacher and I suck.
That doesn't make sense to me in my brain. It does not.
Yeah, no, for me, I don't know. That's a whole nother pod.
It does. You're right though. It does tie into improving yourself as you're improving your dog's life.
Yep.
One of the things Jerry actually pointed out to me, I think like a month and a half into working with me, was that she could see a change in how I was acting alongside how 11's acting.
Mm-hmm.
A little more confidence for the both of you.
Yeah, a little more confidence, a little less. I was absolutely hopeless at the point that I contacted Jerry.
No.
I thought I was going to wind up having to either rehome 11 or have him put down.
Right.
And he's still a nightmare, mostly because I've been focusing on Sky until I can get her off to Norca.
Why are you training your dog before you get your dog trained?
I'm not. I'm holding on to her and keeping her next to me so she doesn't eat the other ones.
You got a hand.
I'm trying to train your dog before you get your dog trained, okay?
Look, she needs structure.
Hey guys, but this also goes like for people that are not training their dogs and they get a dog to cure their own anxiety and depression. If you have an untrained dog, your anxiety and your depression will get worse. Just know that, okay?
It goes up.
Just
it goes up
Hey,
really bad.
Yeah.
I get viciously attacked.
By 6 pounds of dog.
He's so mean. Look how he's looking at me right now.
I saw it. He's sassy. I saw that video.
Look at that attitude.
Hey, what are you doing? You're mean. You're sassy. Ow.
I love his little bisected face.
You're sassy. He's frustrated because I won't let him off plays. So he's doing a frustrated.
11, when he gets frustrated, stomps his foot and goes.
I love the Russell does the place. Look at this.
I just said place. Sassy.
Yeah, I love it. The staff.
He sees you guys. He
So
sees
much
you guys.
attitude.
See that? Back up.
That's a spicy dog for something so small.
Yeah.
He's so mean. I had to extend his board and train another week because he's so mean. You're so mean. You're sassy. You're so sassy. Place. So, good boy. So, no, ow. All right, ladies. I gotta go train.
All right, we gotta wrap this up then. So thank you all for tuning in to our live Let's Talk podcast. And you can find us on social media under Let's Talk Dog Podcast, on Instagram, on TikTok, and on Facebook. Our website is letstalkdogpodcast.com. Also, we have a Patreon and we have merch. All that information will be put into the below box over the next day or 3, so that you'll be able to find us easily. And otherwise, y'all have a super lovely night.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning. See you later. He's over here.